systemic change?
I believe we need to be in it. I believe we do need to protest. Positively, we need to be knocking on doors, making phone calls, causing a stir. But don't be tearing down shit. Listen, I live right around the corner. My mother needs them goddamn Granny Depends. Where the hell am I going? Now the Target, y'all done burnt, we done burnt up. I'm going we, because it's a we. There's no me, there's a we. There's effects and causes. There's a we. Yeah, we need to protest. We need to keep calling. We need to keep marching. We need to keep putting boots on the ground. But guess what? When we start looting, the narrative changes. And no offense, white people, because I date white. I'm gay. I'm going to go there. But once we start changing the narrative, they go, see, I told y'all. They're going to go even ethnic. I told y'all something.
Richard, who do you mean by they? And who is actually changing the narrative?
We're all going to change it together.
But when you said they changed the narrative, who do you mean by they?
We're going to change the narrative. If we're tearing up shit, if my young nephews are tearing up shit, or people of color, or people not of color, people angry, people coming in who don't live here, the story changes. They forget why you were out here marching. Okay. Okay. So there's somebody else that wanted to speak?
Watch out for that speaker right there behind you.
So like, I've had many conversations with people. I went to school in a small town. I'm from Minnesota, but I went to school in small town Iowa. So my senior year, I had 2 roommates who were Donald Trump supporters. So yeah, you can imagine how that went. But so in response to my man that was talking,
Richard Moody, yes.
I get that, and in no way do I support, condone, or say go loot, go burn stuff down. But Philando Castile, when was that? 2016, correct? There were protests. There were many movements. In 2016, did Target put out a public statement that they were going to put resources towards civil injustice? I don't think they did. But after their stores got looted, shit got burned down, they were forced to say something. And when you said we have to go and knock on doors, how do we knock on the doors of Target and make them listen to us? You know, I'm not supporting it, but time and time again, we got places like Walmart, Target, Facebook. Just big companies now had to step up and say something, because if they didn't, their shit was getting burned down. Starbucks, at first they said that they couldn't wear Black Lives Matter things on their uniforms. Everyone's like, fuck Starbucks, we're not going. Then they're like, actually, never mind, you can. So I agree that no, they don't need to be burned and looted, but if their money's not getting messed with, they don't give a fuck. So in some way, I agree that there are more positive, constructive ways to do that, but then it goes back to, as Toussaint was saying, the civil unrest. Shit, it's hard to stay positive when you're mad, when you're scared, when you're angry, and that's what it turns into. So just bigger picture, if it's not messing with their pockets, corporate America doesn't care, so we got to do what we got to do.
Thank you, thank you. As Deshaun finds the next person, I think it's important to speak to what Richard said and this young man said as well, is that when things don't change until it affects their money. If you look at the national football team for Washington, they didn't change that logo until they were really put on the spot. So you have to ask yourself the question, are white folks willing to stand for Black lives until it affects their money? Can't you just do it out of respect for Black people? Does it have to affect your money until it comes to saying Black Lives Matter? And lastly, just to speak to what Richard was saying, because I think what you're saying is important. And I go back to one of my father's good friends, August Nimps, when they marched in New Orleans against the Vietnam War. August would always say, you know, a lot of people tell me to, you know, keep it clean, keep it eloquent, keep it code switched, keep it appropriate. And I always tell these white folks, when they say, hey, voting is the biggest civic engagement you can do. And you can imagine, like, when I tell people that, you know, like, I missed an election, white people get insanely mad. How could you? How could you do that? But then when I say, hey, where were you at for the protests for the past 2 months? So I got work to do. And I'm not allowed to get as angry at them as they are to me about voting. But what August said that I thought was so amazing was, he said, if white people think that voting is such the ultimate civic engagement, how do you think Black people got the vote? They had to go to the streets and shut shit down. Yep. They had to burn some buildings until white folks cared. And so, although I don't condone, encourage, but I also don't judge the vandalizing. I stay out of the way of it. And I made a video saying, get the hell out of downtown. Don't be there. Do not be there. It is dangerous. Rubber bullets are flying. The police had no contrition. They had no problem laying you out. No problem laying you out. And had they not been there, I don't believe it would have escalated as high. But again, how did black people get the vote? They had to take to the streets. And it's the only way sometimes, historically, that we get white supremacy to lean a little bit, to notice a little bit, to pick up the narrative a little bit. So ask yourself that. How did women get the right to vote? How did black people get the right to vote? How did anybody get their rights to actually civically engage? They had to shut some shit down. They had to burn some things down. And that's sad that it has to come to that, but that's the understanding. That's the understanding on my end. Yes?
Okay. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Mike. I'm a Guadalajara Lakota. I have been in protests. I have been in battles. I was at Standing Rock for 7 months straight. I've had felony charges. I've had stitches from I don't know what it was that hit me in the back of the head. I've been through these things. I was at 3rd Precinct the first 3 days, the first 3 nights. I've been to these things. I've had backlash for being at some of these things. I've used the same arguments and I have the same beliefs. I understand what needs to be done at sometimes, the civil unrest part of it, the finally standing up because no one else is listening. I understand that, and I've been right there with you guys with that. But you guys, at some point in time, you need to stop underestimating yourselves. I have been doing this for years. I have never, ever seen a movement get as far as Black Lives Matter has gotten this summer. Just hold up on that right now. I seriously have not seen something move that far. My opinion, as only one person, I'm just one person, but I believe everything I have done in my life to support these things, I believe I have a right to speak. I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a father, and I'm a grandfather. I have 7 grandchildren. I've earned my right to speak. When the first riots came, I understand that. I even argued for it. People came at me and said, well, what about this? What about that? And I said, you know what? I'm not starting any fires, but I'm also not putting any of them out. I understand that. There was a time for that. As time has progressed, Black Lives Matter's public support had really risen. There's a bigger war out there that we're trying to do these battles. Bob Crow, we have a chance at getting rid of him. We can get rid of him by defunding the police. We defund the police, they lose the police unions. They lose the police unions. Bob Crow's whole entire goon squad of bad cops is gone. And that's what we're all out here for. We're all out here to make these changes. We're all out here to get rid of the bad cops. We're all out here so that the next generation possibly may not be able to have to do with this. We'll never be able to stop racism. But we can stand up to it and we can take racism's power away. And that is actually what I saw for the first time. The first time I've ever been at all of these marches, protests, frontline battles. I actually saw a movement taking a foothold and getting their hand finally right around the dirty cops' necks, and we were doing it. I don't see anybody's faces here that was looting. I've been watching all that stuff. I don't see that. What I see is people coming in when they hear something's going on, they hear about it on Facebook, they see the live feeds, they get the phone calls from their friends that say, hey, this is going on, let's go check it out. But they're not coming down there to stand with us when we're getting maced. They're not coming on there for that. They're coming in there to sneak around and bash into stuff and take stuff. Well, you know what? Honestly, I have to say it. The community-owned businesses, their lives matter too. We are doing this for the community. We're doing this so that things will change in the community. And without the community supporting us, then we already lost. The time for for getting violent and all that stuff, it got their attention. You guys are underestimating yourselves if you think it did not. City Council will make these changes. They are being pushed to make these changes. But if they lose public support, we lose public support, they're not going to make any changes. And guess what? Bob Crow and his goons are going to be here forever. He's going to remember all of us that was at his house, including me.
Do you trust City Council to actually enact the powers that they have right now? According to Communities United Against Police Brutality, the City Council right now, in their own power, can severely decrease the power of the Minneapolis Police Department, and they have not. They also could have put forth more stringent and strong charter amendments, and they did not. And a lot of people said they were lukewarm and watered down. Do you trust this city charter? And do you believe that do you trust the City Council? And if not, do you believe the seats need to change, or what needs to happen moving forward?
Well, let me first explain that one by as a Oglala Lakota, you know, Damame, but I speak English very well. I know the white man game. I know the City Council game. City Council people, like all politicians, love their jobs. And like I said before, this was the first time public support had shifted. If public support continued to shift, continued to back us up, continued to grow, to answer your question, do I believe that they love their jobs enough that they will make any choice that they feel is going to benefit themselves? I absolutely do. I absolutely do. If I think that there's a chance that we can make change, then I'm willing to come out. I'm willing to get shot in the back of the head with a fucking canister. I don't know what it was. I'm willing to get gas masked. I'm willing to get arrested and deal with charges if there's a chance for a change. If it's just to come out, just to raise my fist and yell around, no, I'm here to make a change. And this, I'm telling you, this year I saw changes starting to come. I saw people starting to shift their views. We have to hang on to that. And like I said, I'm not saying that people here were looters. I don't believe anybody here was. But if you believe in this movement, if you believe in change, if you believe in the chance that we're using, I hear it. I hear Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Native Lives Matter. If we're here, then that would mean that all the community matters. And that means that we are fighting for the community. We're not attacking civilians. And to me, small mom and pop shops stealing all their stuff is the same thing as attacking civilians. If you want to break something, if you want to get your anger out, there's a front line going on when those things are going on. Come on up to the front line. Get all the anger out you want.
Yeah, and I think for people that were at Nicollet and 8th, I won't ask you to raise your hand and implicate yourself, but when we were there, the idea wasn't, hey, let's loot all the mom and pop shops. There was nothing. Matter of fact, it was one of the most electric, spontaneous moments I've ever been a part of. Because at any moment in time, a bat could swing, a patio chair could be thrown, a canister could be shot, mace could be sprayed, a rubber bullet could fly out of anywhere. And as you know, rubber bullets can kill. They can kill. They killed a woman after a Patriots Super Bowl celebration, went right into her eye, through her brain, she died. So these measures are deadly. These measures are very deadly. And so I can't really measure what happens on Nicollet and 8th and Nicollet and 9th, but what I can say is that I can't say it has no connection to Jacob Blake. I can't say it has no connection to Kyle Rittenhouse. So when we see these measures taken, when we see Tamir Rice, who's murdered by cops immediately for having a toy gun, yet we see Kyle Rittenhouse putting up his hands and has an AR-15 and is paid no mind to by the cops. That says a lot. That destroying mom and pop shops, it's to the point of we're feeling pretty rageful right now, and we don't trust these police. And I think the main rift between what was on Nicollet and 8th and Nicollet and 9th was the distrust. Anybody else raise their hands? We want to get quickly to one more question of how do you feel about yeah, go ahead. Deshaun, this person had their hand raised first. Go ahead.
I'm kind of speaking directly to the adults here because I'm 16 and I'm out here fighting for my life. I guess a lot of you can walk out of here and your life is not in danger. This is something you get to do on the side. A lot of us here, we don't get to leave. This is our everyday. I'm 16 years old And from when I was this big, I've been told that I'm not valuable and that I'm not important because of the color of my skin and my gender. So I'm out here fighting so that I can be equal like many of you. So I've been hearing that a lot of people would say that we shouldn't be looting and we shouldn't be rioting. But why is it our job to respond with peace when they kill us? Why is it our job to respond with calm when they are murdering us day in and day out?
Can I ask you a question? What somebody said earlier, does that resonate with you to have to, like, when we're being murdered, should the response be to knock on doors and wait to vote?
I would say no, because...
Why not?
We've been trying to knock on doors. I go to a predominantly white school, and let me just say, asking people to, I don't know, make my life matter doesn't do anything because it doesn't affect them. I can go to school and I can get threatened. Well, I have gone to school, my life has gotten threatened, and every single day when we go to administration, they say, we're taking care of it, we're handling it. But if they're really handling it, why do we have black men and women being gunned down in the streets? If we have, I go to the school district where Derek Chauvin was essentially raised from. And from last fall, I was threatened and they called my phone saying that they were going to kill me because I'm black. These are kids that are doing this. And when I turn on the TV and I see adults that are acting like children, it's really disheartening because I don't want to grow up in a world where my older brother can walk out on the street and die. So, I'm not condoning looting, I'm not condoning rioting, but all I'm saying is if you want the looting and the rioting to stop, stop murdering people.
Yeah.
Woo!
I just want to say, I don't believe that an arrest would have happened if there wasn't riots in the George Floyd case. Also, when the kids were outside, if you go back and watch live video, the police start throwing stuff at the kids first. They threw stuff at the kids twice, and that's what she's saying. She don't want to see the police acting like kids. There's another, the little short cop. She was trying to wrestle one of the little girls. You can see the girl saying, stop trying to fight me. So our children, we got little black girls having to tell police officers to stop trying to fight them. And you can see this on the video. So,
do you believe that the police incited some of this?
Yes, I believe that they pepper sprayed some people and then they before anybody threw anything, the police threw some things at the crowd first, and it's on tape. So we're not saying that any looting should have happened, but if you want respect, you got to give respect. Also, we can't just be nice and think that the city council is going to make changes. There's going to be money involved. The Fraternal Order of Police is going to fund candidates. There's a real estate fund that funds candidates in the elections next year. They're going to be funding people. So they don't want encampments. They don't want people sleeping in the park or whatever. So we can't just say things. We got to kind of get a better understanding of what we're up against. So just make sure that you get politically educated as we start rolling into 2021. Okay. And follow the money. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's just interesting to point out on Trehar's side of it. Yes, did you want to speak?
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for that. Watch out for the speaker. Just speak right there. You're good.
Okay. The problem is I can't hear a lot of you when you talk through a microphone. It's just hard for me to hear. So I'm sorry if what I'm saying is sort of flying in the face or we've already covered that. But what my concern is, I saw the Republican National Convention last night. And it's scary to me. I've read a lot about history, and I've seen how this group, they're being very, they're coming down on the violence and they're blaming it on this group. Anyone that supports this group, we are the bad guy.
What is this group?
This group, I'm talking about everybody here, anyone that's supporting Black Lives Matter, anyone that's supporting the civil rights for women, heck, ageism. I'm 65, you know, so I have my issues too. But what I am saying, my concern, and I want to ask all of you is, what are we going to do to stop the violence part? Because there's a group that's in there that is riding on the coattails of this group, I believe. And they're doing so much destruction, and we're losing a lot of people. Trump, all he's talking about is law and order, law and order. I mean, it can become like a martial country. We can't give him any openings, I guess is what I'm saying. So is there a way that we can still be as active and everything else? For example, do any of you have any ideas? Like, I was thinking, for example, if there's a curfew, if we all stay inside, I know people wanted to do peaceful protesting when there was a curfew, saying we're doing peaceful protesting. That's true. But at the same time, it was not just peaceful protesting, because there were other people in the group that were destroying property. And a lot of them was small business.
And do you believe that the destruction of property was giving Trump an opening to blaming us?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Do you believe that the destruction of property gave way to Trump disenfranchising or dismissing Black Lives Matter?
I don't think that initially anybody was buying into that. I think there was a long time when people understood the frustration. They could understand, well, of course this is going to happen. I think that's why people wanted to solve problems without bringing in the police, and we're trying. But I think that now he is, he's dangerous. And I think that to ignore that, I'm afraid for this. We can really do something here.
Well, I'll wrap up on this. Even if we didn't give Trump an opening or any way to blame us, do you still think he would find a way?
What?
If we didn't give Trump a means to blame us, do you still think he would find a way?
Oh, yes, he would. That's why we don't. But that's why we don't want to give him away. We don't want to give him an opening.
Okay.
Not give him an opening. And I'm sorry. I know we all disagree and we all have different opinions. And again, and I'm white. I grew up in a small town in Michigan, so I know you may not give me any credibility at all. But I do remember Martin Luther King and Gandhi too. There really is something to be said for when you don't do violence. When you do violence,
they put violence on MLK.
Somebody's yelling that they killed Martin Luther King.
What did they say?
They said Martin Luther King was killed.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want that to happen.
Let her speak. You can come up here and speak right after. It's okay.
I'd love to hear what this woman has to say. I don't understand.
They can come up after you. It's okay. We're not here to,
All right, my question is, so are you saying, and are all of you saying, that you can continue to give cover by being out after curfews when there's violence going on? Are you saying that that is okay? That's going to further what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes. Okay, I can answer that. I'm sure other people can answer as well. Yes. We're going to pass the light. Justin, did you want to speak to any kind of the military, just the military occupancy at all? Do you want to speak to the military occupancy at all? In a little bit. Well, I'm going to answer the question really quick, and I guess this is something for everybody to reflect upon, because I can't speak for everybody, but what I will say, from my experience, being out after curfew, showing up, the idea is, okay, Fry announces another curfew. All right. The idea is we go down the line to spitting and lurking and loitering laws. After slaves were freed, loitering laws were put into place. You're standing around too long somewhere, you're going to get arrested. You're standing around somewhere too long, you're going to get put in jail. So as these laws get put into place, or these modern day loiter laws get put into place, if I'm not out here breaking anything, then I don't believe that I'm, holding back the cause at all. I've watched cops shoot tasers at even white folks in Whittier on their front porch. So I don't know if the question is if we're staying out after curfew, or if we're a part of these protests, or in the fray of these riots. Are we furthering the cause? The question is, are the police, is the city council, is the mayor, is the governor ever going to make systemic change enough that people will trust the police department and not have to show up to the streets to demand change? I think that's the real question. And we could be getting into kind of a dangerous dialogue by saying, All right, well, if you follow the rules, can we further the cause? Again, I go back to, how did black people get the vote? We didn't follow the rules, right? So we had to break the rules to get our voices heard. This person's been waiting for a while to speak. Yeah.
Hello, y'all. So I'm gonna say I want the same legal system for my black and brown brothers and sisters that the white people go through. They're just 3 months ago, May 27th, John Reichel shot out into a crowd of people and killed Calvin Horton. And shot Calvin Horton and killed him. He was not charged. He is still out and free to roam around. Now, had that been a black person that shot and killed a white man, what do y'all think would have happened? No. He would have been locked up. He would have been charged. He thrown far into the water, and no, it's just not the same. And so when you say, how about you guys do this way and that way, we've been doing it this way and that way. We're not getting any further. When we start showing our ass, then that's when people want to take notice and take heed to what's going on, and then they want to half-ass act like they care. And they still don't.
Really quick. So Calvin Horton was killed outside of Cadillac Palm by John Reichel, a white man, Calvin Horton being a black man. The ward member, the city council ward member that sees over that area, Alondra Cano, she showed up to Powderhorn, announced, hey, we're going to defund the police. She also used words of unicorns, rainbows, and intermediate steps, literally, in her speech. And she's demanded and chanted George Floyd from here to there. However, she has said nothing of Calvin Horton. My question to you is, when a city council member does, in my opinion, performative social justice, but then says nothing for Calvin Horton, what does that say to you?
That she don't care. That she don't care. That's it. She don't have to say anything. Her actions show it.
I'm going to have Kyle Wilson come up and speak in a little bit, but really quickly, I want to speak to Justin, who served in our military, and I had a National Guards person reach out to me and say that, just speak to your opinion, or guess what usually happens and the mechanics of it, but a National Guard person spoke up, reached out to me and asked me about what is the temperament on the ground right now, and they weren't, I could be misinterpreting this, but they weren't quite sure how to feel on the snap judgment of the National Guard getting called in yet again this past Wednesday. How do you feel about that, and what's your experience been since George Floyd?
Well, first of all, I just want to say,
Hold it closer.
oh, sorry. This is truly, take some words out of my mouth. This is fucking amazing to see all these people here supporting the movement. I've been, watching Facebook, being that keyboard warrior, kind of, watching everything go by. I've just been nervous to, step out because of just, my experiences downrange and overseas. When you see people that are, known terrorists, and bomb makers being treated fucking better than your own citizens in your own country back home, and to come here and to see police officers getting away with fucking murder of the people that I was here to protect. I'm a Southside kid. I'm black and white. I'm fucking from here. Yeah. And I try to come home and be a regular person in my community, and you can't do that when you see this shit. And that's the snap judgment having the National Guard come in.
So I want to ask you real quick, and hold the mic closer to yourself when you speak. You said that there were bomb makers and people overseas that are being treated better, that you were there to police or what have you, that are being treated better than citizens here. How do you see the citizens being treated here, and how did that make you feel?
It's not right. As a soldier, if I'm gonna raise my weapon at somebody, that's the last time it happens. And there's a tactical patience. You have to understand what the fuck you're about to do. You're about to end somebody's life. That shit is not taken lightly. You have to take everything into account. Who's behind them, left, right, side, who's innocent, who's wrong, even though that could be hard to do. And here, that doesn't happen.
Do you see the police taking those same measures?
Fuck no. No, I'm sorry for saying that. Watching that video and having veteran friends, there's a lot of people that are very, if we want to say far right, they're very well, he was reaching for a gun, he's doing this, they're all, I bet he's not a saint. Fucking who cares if he's not a saint? He's a fucking person. You don't pull their shirt. And if he looks like he's trying to flee, that's where tactical patience. That's where your fucking training steps in, and you step back and go, I don't know what he's doing, but I'm gonna give it that time. That time because he's a person, he deserves that time. I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. I need to watch what he's gonna do, and then I'm gonna make that jump and what I have to do. He wasn't in danger. He's holding the guy from the back and then executed him. And that's the thing that's fucking making me mad, is you gotta come home and you gotta see this shit. I can't do that overseas. So like I said, somebody who's shooting at me, I better be able to see their eyes in the round coming at me before I do what I gotta do. But here, oh no, shit, he looks scary, fuck him. Like, that's crazy. Okay. That's fucking crazy.
Thank you for your 2 cents, man. I want to call up Kyle Wilson. Trey Hearn spoke to something regarding encampments in Minneapolis, and also this does play into what we're talking about here and why we're here with these houses surrounding and having this conversation here. In that you have the state, city, Hennepin County, and Park Board. And there's only been 20 parks that have been allowed in Minneapolis to have encampments. Kyle has been boots on the ground in these encampments before George Floyd. And Kyle, I want you to speak to your experience, what the park police have, how they've treated you, and how communities like this one can do better. Speak really close to the mic. We want to hear you.
Communities. I thank you all for coming together as a community and supporting one another and supporting this effort, this movement, because without the community, we as individuals cannot do very much. So, as for the community coming together and supporting these encampments, and without your efforts, this would not be possible, because the government and the city and the council are not doing anything much to help this effort. They're more pushing us around and allowing these people not to live, not to settle, not to be housed, because we are unhoused. I am unhoused. And to be continuously pushed around and having to move from one place to another and having to reset, restart, and then do everything all over again and be limited to a 48-hour, 72-hour eviction, when it comes down to it, ends up being a 24-hour eviction without notice. We have set up a new place in Columbia last week.
The place set up in Columbia was because people were evicted from Loring?
Yes, because people were evicted from Loring. We set up a new place in Columbia. And the very next morning, before any of us could deliver breakfast, before any of us could wake up, before the people in the tents could even wake up, they surrounded them, put them in the panels, told them to only pull the poles and collapse the tents, put them in the panels, transferred them to a new camp that they set up on their own, and later gave them their own items.
When you said they put people in the kennels, what are those?
Or in their panels. And the
panels?
Yes. And,
what are those?
Into the police vehicles, into the beats, and to transport them to where they belong, and later gave them their belongings, which were searched, they believe, and rummaged through. Stuff like this, we continuously pushed around and bullied. I don't know, like I was saying last week, if these people were raised in a household, and that's us, unhoused people, are coming together as a community and standing strong, and these people meaning the authorities, the cops, grew up in a home and we're taught this. I don't want a home, because I don't want that to be taught to my kids and my family. What I want is a community to stand together, to support each other, to be there for each other, and to understand that we deserve better. Not only that we deserve better, as we were talking about the police and their actions, I've got to know a lot of these individuals that live in these tents. They have mental instabilities, they have problems, they have a background, they have trauma, they have addictions. And for the cops to come in and quickly draw out a pepper spray, a taser, a gun. They don't think what this other person has been through in their lives. And their reaction is either shut down, give up, run, get shot in the back, or fight. Because what they grew up and their experience that they have been in, most of the times has taught them to fight and to not turn away. Because they know what happens when you turn your back and when you shut down and you give up. Because once you're in that system, you're in that system. And for them to turn and fight, because that draw of the taser, the pepper spray, the gun, is a threat on their lives. A threat on their lives that they have to react to in that moment. So they either step forward, get shot, get sprayed, get tased, and they're charged with probably the highest crime that they can be charged with, and possibly reduced later on and be on probation and stuck in the system for much longer than they're supposed to be, and possibly get in more trouble because they have no home. They have no place to go to be safe, to hide, to be away from all this chaos that they're trying to avoid, that they're trying to get away from. I've met these people I've mentioned. Some of these people, they're tired of this lifestyle. They're tired of being on these streets. They want a home. They want a place. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be happening overnight. It's not going to happen next day. It might take a generation or two. But if it takes a generation or two and these people have a home where they can share their experiences and share with their kids, like it's not good out there, or maybe it's good because there is a community. There are people that look out for each other. To at least show them and make that first step. Like I said, to share their experiences and to let their children grow off of that. And their children to, share those same experiences. Because sometimes history does repeat itself. I was thinking about it last week. Me as Native American, this has happened 100 years ago. And these same lands, getting their teepees torn down, relocated, pushed to another place, put to another concentration camp, put to another reservation that they could not leave. The other night at PV, when they came over there, they arrested numerous people and told the other residents, stay in your tent. If you come out, we'll arrest you. For 10 hours, maybe 6 hours, not even be able to come out and use the restroom possibly because they knew there was a cop out there waiting to, pull a gun, because they needed to, use the restroom or do something to get some air because it gets humid, it gets hot in these tents. And for this system to continuously push us around and not have people in power to do anything about it, and for us unhoused people, it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. So with elections and things coming up, please vote for someone that you can see or that you feel can make a difference. Because locally, that's where things happen. And again, for those who support these encampments and these unhoused people, thank you. It's well appreciated, and continue to help. Ask your friends, ask your family, out of this state even, to say, hey, look, there's this going on. Because I too believe this is the front line of a movement that is great, that is going somewhere. We have got their attention. We will continue to get their attention. What I also mentioned last week is something I watched as they tore down Powderhorn West, which was, there was a line, a tape, that was taken down, and people moved forward. Then they took that line, tied it to another tree. We continued to move forward until they had no other trees to tie that line to. They turned away and walked out. As long as we continue to push forward and we make this happen, we will make something happen. And speaking back on history, March to Washington, equal rights. We're still fighting for those equal rights. It is not equal out here. We're called minority, but if we come together and join together as a community, as people, understanding that there needs to be a change, we become the majority. We become people that can make change. So I ask you to continuously bring people out here and to listen to those of us who have experienced these things and who continue to help and who continue to push forward and break those lines, break those barriers. I like this crowd. It's much bigger than last week. Let's make it bigger.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. On Sunday at the Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association, 821 East 35th Street. That's 821 East 35th Street, Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association, from noon to 7. They'll be having pretty much like a one-day supply bank. So bring whatever tents you can. The way that Kyle and I met was just me approaching him and saying, what's going on here? Like, what do y'all need? It wasn't through a volunteer tent. It wasn't through, you know, somebody that was volunteering at an encampment. I encourage everybody to go to an encampment and face-to-face speak to somebody. Like just be a human. Treat other people as a human, because so often we don't. And I didn't get in touch with Kyle until he reached out to me after the storm about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I got a call and he said, "Is that offer for help still stand?" I said, "Of course." He said, "Well, we've lost everything." And then my privileged ass was sitting here like, "What'd you lose?" Meanwhile, there's like a storm torrentially pouring down. And he said, "We lost all our tents, we've lost everything." So we put together a one-day supply bank over at Bryant Square Park, brought in as many tents as we could. We did the same over at Muller, didn't bring in as many. But this Sunday at Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association, 821 East 35th Street, you have the opportunity to do that again. So please get in touch with that. Also, what Kyle has been the initiative of, or the origin of, is Home Base Central, which is the channel on Instagram. It's called Home Base Central. And if you follow that, all it is information of what lists are needed at each encampment. It is simply an information hub. What encampments need to be defended? Where are the cops popping up next? And this is one thing that I'll say, personally, I do not know anybody, I do not know any singular mother that ever said, "I want to raise my child to go and evict unhoused people from parks." I can't imagine anybody wanted that for their child. It is one of the most cowardly, inhumane, disgusting acts I've ever seen in my life. The Minneapolis Park Police should be absolutely ashamed, scared to look themselves in the mirror, and questioning why they have to put on mace, a taser, and a gun on their hip, and then show up to parks ready to treat unhoused folks like Colonel Custer treated indigenous folks back in the day. History does repeat itself, and white people keep doing it. So for the white folks here, you need to hold your constituents accountable, very accountable. Like, have this conversation for the rest of your lives. Not just at Thanksgiving, not just for an awkward day on a Sunday. Keep having it. This should not be happening.
Yes.
And for everybody that's in Lisa Bender stand, a history lesson when there was an encampment that popped up at Stevens Square years ago. Residents tried to get a porta potty there. They tried to get a porta potty there just so unhoused folks could use the restroom. They called Lisa Bender and they tried to get her to put up a porta potty, some money to put up a porta potty. It took weeks. It took them weeks to get her to answer. When she finally showed up, she said, "Put the porta potty a block away." I don't know how that makes you feel, but that makes me as disgusted of that act as I am of the park police. This city is in need of new leadership. It really is. We're not over here saying cancel Lisa Bender. That's not what I'm saying. Lisa's gonna find another job, gonna do great, gonna be able to make ends meet. I have no question in my mind Lisa can find maybe a job that pays more, where she doesn't have to hire private security on tax-paid dollars while she's crying defund the police. While she's offering $20 million to a white family killed by a black cop, but then offers $200,000 to the family of Jamar Clark.
That's right.
The disparity is egregious. It is noticeable. This is not this performative white guilt. I'm not here for it. I'm really not here for it at all, and I never will be, because the comfort's over. We're not going backwards. This conversation is going to be brought full and frontal to your face. The discomfort you feel right now, that's all right. You ain't gonna die. They ain't gonna kneel on your neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. They're not gonna show up to your house and tell you got 24 hours to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
They're not gonna throw you into a truck and then bus you to somewhere else where they set up some more tents. They're not gonna do that to you.
As the energy picks up, the wind picks up.
You'll be just fine. And one of the reasons this has been happening when we question leadership, the same person that works hand in hand with the cops is supposed to prosecute the cops. And the only cop that's been prosecuted is a black cop that shot a white person. For a white cop that shot Jamar Clark, no prosecution. For a cop that shot Philando Castile, no prosecution. And then that all falls on the shoulders of the DA that you voted in, Mike Freeman. And there are people right now trying to recall Mike Freeman to get him out of his job. He is culturally incompetent. You need to sign that, or at least talk to those people, ask them why they're doing this, and get some information, and then make a decision to sign or not. Please, do some research into the leadership. Really do some research into the city council that you have. These people saying kumbaya at Powder One Park said they were going to disband, then they're going to defund, then they're going to change the charter, and then they offered lukewarm amendments and then pointed it at the Charter Commission that it's their fault. That does not look like accountability. We got to question what the word accountability means in leadership today. We really have to. We're going to take 3 more people, and then what's going to happen is you'll have about 20 to 30 minutes to just sit and chat amongst yourselves, and then we got to close it down. Because what's been happening at these rallies and protests is sometimes people get a hold of the mic, they start demanding, anarchy or whatever it may be. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I organized this for, and I hope that's not what you're here for. We're here to get a forum going, to get a dialogue going, and to get people thinking. That's really what all of it is. Okay? So I'm gonna prompt the question. Do you feel that this neighborhood is welcome to black folks? You can give a yes or a no, and then tell us why. The microphone is open to you. What? No, Dax. Sorry, Dax. You speak, and then we'll prompt that question. My bad, Dax.
Sorry. We're gonna touch on something real quick. My name is Dax. I'm with Bikers Riding Against Police Brutality.
Yeah.
We try to be as active as we can. Shout out to everybody that's giving their own time to come out here and support their thing. Also, excuse me, I hate public speaking, so bear with me. But I wanted to step up here and say a few things. I want to touch on what Mike said, and also what that lady said earlier. I want to challenge you guys' mind real quick, please open perspective. But I wanted to talk about support, and I wanted to talk about narrative, like that man said over there as well. Support, narrative. Do you guys hear me all right? Am I a little too close to the mic?
Closer.
Sorry about that. Okay, so support narrative. Okay, please try to keep that in mind when I'm talking about this. So, is there anybody that's been to a Blue Lives Matter protest or a counter protest? Please raise your hands real quick. Okay, a few people. I'm not encouraging people to go there because it's not the best situation. But what I'm saying is that the narrative and the perspective of these people when we get there. Our group is a real peaceful group. We support protests in a peaceful way. We're not about violence in any way, right? And so
and that's a perspective that I'm assuming that a lot of you have out here. I don't see anybody that's violent. I don't think anybody's out here to cause violence. And that's what we're all about. When we pull up to these protests, that's what we get from these guys. We get, oh, you guys are Antifa. Oh, you guys are here to fuck shit up. Oh, you guys are dangerous. You guys are, you know, you guys have a short fuse. You guys blah, blah, blah. They just demonize us. They demonize us. And what do we do when we show up? You know, we meet them with that rage. We show them that they're right, you know? So that's a big issue that we're having as a group, is how we're protesting and how we're getting our voice across. Now that also touches on the chaos that we're raising in the streets too, right? So, you know, I'm with what happened on Lake Street. I get it. That needed to happen for George Floyd, for sure. But I don't know. I mean, I know people in the hood, whatever. And the people that I know in the hood that go looting, they're not about none of this shit. They're about the come up, right? They're about opportunity. And besides, you know, the other extremists that come into the state, shit like that. But I'm talking about our own people. I'm talking about our own people that are hopping in these stores. You know what I'm saying? They're out here flipping cigarettes for the low because they got a couple carts at the store. You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem with looting, is that who's really looting? And why are we looting? Why are we causing destruction? Right? So, you know, we're gonna go back, like we were saying earlier. You know, fires and chaos that happened like 50 years ago, whatever. That's 50 fucking years ago. I get that, you know, the same thing may work, but that's the easy route. That's the easy thing to do, is to cause chaos, right? That's the easy way to get our point across. Yeah, it works. They hear us because they have to, right? But who has to suffer? Why are we making our own people suffer for trying to put our word out, right? So one of the most positive things I seen about destruction was the 3rd precinct getting burnt down.
Why did you see that as a positive thing?
Because for once, see, if you looked around before it went down, everything was in flames, right? Buildings you didn't even know was in flames. Apartment buildings, whatever the fuck. It's like, what? It's crazy. Then the pawn shop goes up. There's all types of shit was going on, left and right. Then boom, the precinct goes down. I'm talking to my sister. I'm like, yo, why did we do? This is the first motherfucking thing that should have went up.
What was the symbolism that you saw in the 3rd precinct burning down?
Well, first, man, dude, there's so many things. If you were there for that whole thing, I mean, I could talk about that.
Well, just what's one thing that you thought was symbolism from the 3rd precinct burning down?
Resilience. Resilience. Man, them motherfuckers were in there and we didn't even know.
Yeah.
And we continued, I mean, once they came out, we continued to fuck shit up. They ran. And that's the most beautiful thing about it. They ran, you know, but regardless, if we're gonna cause destruction, let's cause it in the places it needs to be had. I get Target and the big corporations don't really matter, but at the same time, how about let's bring that, I mean, if we're gonna, like I said, if we're gonna be destructive, why don't we be destructive in the right areas?
And when you say in the right areas, I want to problematize that a little bit from what the gentleman said with the red Black Lives Matter shirt, in saying that, watch out, you're right next to the speaker, in that maybe we shouldn't be, you know, burning things down, we should be knocking on doors. What is the difference between taking an avenue of knocking on doors and just getting ready for the vote, for the election, versus, you know, I'm not waiting, I'm gonna be on Minnehaha and Lake.
So here's the thing, like I want to touch on again, that's the easy thing to do. The easy thing to do is to be destructive, right? And that comes from disorganization, honestly. You know, one person throws something and the next person throws something, and then we just all start throwing some shit, and then one person jumps in and the next person jumps in. It's just fucking ridiculous. Nobody really gives a fuck that's on the scene. I mean, yeah, a lot of people, I mean, yeah, our people, all our people are gonna care about, you know, people getting murdered, but it's opportunity that's causing most of this destruction, is what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, if we were organized, that's the problem. We're not organized. You see how many people are here? We got a decent amount, but this is kind of sad, honestly.
Why?
Because this whole fucking park should be body to body. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? And then I was going to touch on the Asian.
Yeah, let me know.
Shout out to you. You said some very good stuff. Where's the Hispanics at? Where my Latinos at? Where the fuck are the Latinos at? I got a couple. Shout out to y'all. But, you know, I grew up on the west side. You know what I'm saying? And the Latinos go through it like a motherfucker. They know what's good. We all know what's good. The Asians know what's good in their hood. All the hoods are fucked up. We all go through some shit in the hood. And I want to touch on that too. I don't know how many people here have been assaulted by police officers. And I'm not talking about mental abuse. I'm not talking about, you know, them shit talking, none of that. I'm talking about physical abuse. How many people, and you don't have to raise your hand, it's fine. This is, you know, between yourselves, but how many people have really been assaulted by police? I have. And I know how they work. They use a gray line. They figure out how they can get to you and hurt you without them having any repercussions. They're smart. They're smart when they hurt you. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, if you look at all that 90% of African Americans that get locked up for something, you look at their mugshots, what's on their faces? They take that opportunity and whip your ass because there ain't nothing you can do about it. You know what I'm saying? It's a funny game.
How did you feel about police after you were brutalized by them? Was there any trust that you had for police after you were brutalized by them? And I say that just to get to the point of it because we got to keep moving to the next.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
I want to know how you felt after. Was the trust like broken after you were brutalized by police?
So before this, I don't know if we got some. I'm about 25. There's something called the Big Bass. Big Bass 1, Big Bass 2. It was wild. I don't know if any of y'all went to it, but it was downtown. It was I think it was in Dickeytown. And they shut the whole fucking thing down. It was crazy. They came to the hotel. We had the hotel lobby all booked out. It was full body to body. They maced the whole fucking building out. Everybody was running, fleeing for their lives because nobody could breathe. We get outside, there's people everywhere. I'm talking like, man, at least almost 1,000 people, 500 to 1,000 people running around in the streets trying to get away from these police officers. It was almost like what's going on right now. Same shit. They had the rubber bullets out, the mace, everything. It was crazy, right? And they was whooping motherfuckers, right? It was the craziest shit I ever saw in my life. I got out, I went to the, there was a, I'm sorry to really get into stories and shit. But there's a parking ramp right next to where this is going on, so I can see the bird's eye view of everything without being in traffic, right? So I didn't have to worry about it. I've seen motherfuckers get jumped by 2 and 3 cops, get stomped the fuck out, right? It's crazy shit. And then that shit happened to me after that. So I already know what's good.
So did you trust them? I mean, was the trust forever broken after that?
No, it's not. That's the thing, because there's good cops and there's bad cops. And that's the problem.
But do you think that there's any good cops in a racist system?
Well, to touch on this story, I'm sorry, I hate to keep telling stories. I was in the airport one time and I talked to a police officer who was actually, who resigned. He was with his partner one day, and he knew his partner had a history of doing a lot of violent stuff. He had a record for, you know, being reprimanded, blah, blah, skippity-doo-dah. He was on a traffic stop. That partner actually did something in front of him he wasn't okay with, and he was an African-American male who witnessed his partner, you know, doing the damage, whatever. He brought it to the sergeant. He told me, and I think this is maybe 15, 20 years ago, whatever, but the sergeant said, and I hate to say this, either you bleed blue or you don't. So his option was essentially, either you gonna roll or you ain't gonna roll. And he said, fuck this, I'm not okay with this. So, you know, it's using the good cops to change the system. We need the good cops to change the bad cops. We need police officers, that's the thing. There's no police officers.
Fuck the police.
Yeah, and it was an interesting point that I think Nakima and some of the people in the north side brought up as well. And we need to turn the mic out to the last 2 questions here, the last 2 people that are going to speak, in that when they had the defund the police talk at Powderhorn Park, what you saw was a stark white crowd on the hill chanting, "Get these police out here." And that was the community. However, for people that live in communities with exigent circumstances that may have violence brought upon them on the north side, in Phillips neighborhood, in Frogtown, there might have been a different chant. And so I thought it was interesting that City Council was pushing this narrative to an entirely white crowd and then leaves and then offers up very menial change. And that for me, I don't know where the accountability or the trust goes from there. So that being said, moving forward, my question to you is, and the reason why we're holding this here is for a reason. A lot of people ask, what would it look like if there were a lessened police presence? What if there were a decreased police presence? And my answer is, Look around you. This is what you get. Do you think George Floyd would have been killed here? You think Jacob Blake would have been shot 7 times in the back here? Do you think white people here would be talking about Black Lives Matter unless buildings were burning on the other side of town? What is the privilege that you inherently have? What are the blinders that you've been having on for a long time? What is the life that you've been living where you haven't had to have this conversation? I don't know what that's like, but I'm here to have you reflect upon that and try to figure out what you want going forward. You may leave and say, that was uncomfortable. Back to business as usual. And that may happen to a lot of you. That might happen. I totally understand that may happen. I want 2 people, just to wrap this up. We've gone a little longer than we wanted to. And this is just to give you the umbrella organization for what this is about. This is for on-site public media. And so I used to work for Twin Cities Public Television, and I left after they didn't say anything about George Floyd for 7 days. Then when I made a video about them not saying anything, they then said something that was very halfway, it was very passive, it was very public television. And then I left, because I just didn't want to be a part of it. And for the other media outlets, it's a dangerous place to be as a black body. And the amount of stress that you go through, it's not worth the paycheck. But I want to hear from 2 people. Do you feel that black folks are welcome in this neighborhood? And do you feel that, what do you think this conversation should be going forward? Let's raise your hand. Right over there. Deshaun, you want to run? Oh. Just run it to the person. We'll get you at the end. We'll get you at the end. Yeah, we'll just run that mic over to him. Thank you.
Hi. So I live right up here. My boyfriend lives 2 blocks over on Fremont. I was at a protest, but he is black and he lives right down the street. He's walking down Hennepin, gets stopped by this woman that is always walking in this neighborhood by himself. A bunch of people out midday. This woman stops him. He's got his hoodie on, he's got his blue rag on, walking. And the woman said, "When will you people learn?" He's like, excuse me? Everybody around, you guys, no one said a fucking thing. Nobody. No one said anything. And he was literally standing there defenseless against this woman, verbally attacking him. He pays rent here. He does not feel welcome here. That is so, you guys, we have to fucking speak up.
Should black folks that don't even live in this neighborhood, that don't pay rent here, should they feel welcome here as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This park right here, everywhere. I'm for real.
And what can this community do different, do you think, what can this community do different, do you believe, that can, I gotta rephrase this, because there's a group of white women that started, all are welcome here. And there's an inherent problem with that phrase in the colonial ownership.
Yeah.
You're welcome here.
Right. Here.
We own here, but you're welcome here.
Right.
Not you belong here.
Right.
You're welcome here.
Right.
I don't know for how long.
Right.
I don't know who's welcoming me.
Right.
But it's our house.
Right.
You're welcome here.
Yeah, you can come hang out.
My question is, how can this community not just welcome people, but decenter whiteness and belong to everybody?
Well, I think just in certain situations, just like what just happened, first off, I watch body language everywhere I go, and I watch white people like me. I grab their pockets when they walk past a black person. Are you kidding? The body language is so loud, you guys. You don't even have to speak. You don't even have to speak. You just watch. I want, knowing that happened, and no one speaked up. I mean, I walked with him down that road, and he pointed out the people that did not speak. I don't know also about in like certain like real estate, like I don't know if there's like some written like laws or but like they ban certain people from living in certain area. I don't know if that's going down here.
Well, that goes back to racial covenants, where black people were not allowed to live in neighborhoods like this.
And that's right.
And so you see the legacy of who's living there.
And I'd like to know if that's seriously still like written in, if that's still written in it.
Whether it's written in or not, what you do have to know, and Alicia Gibson has been leading the trail on this, the president of Lena, and that there is a giant condo called Pure Lowry, which is the worst name I've ever heard for a condo, that has been built, and while it was being built, it cracked the foundation of affordable housing right next to it. Now this is again on Lisa Bender's turf, and it cracks the foundation of that apartment. Foundation's cracked. Legally, y'all gotta go. So it turns away, you know, several dozen odd people. Some of them go unhoused. Year and a half later, the people that built Pure Lowry bought the building they cracked. Now, you can guess what's gonna happen next. Bulldoze the building, you know, build absolute Lowry. I don't know what the hell is next, but 100% Lowry. I don't know, but the idea is that if you're talking naturally occurring affordable housing on your watch and you're a paid city council member and this happens, I don't know if I can trust you going down the line. So whether it's in the bylaws or not, it's still happening regardless.
For sure.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely.
And I'll just wrap up with this quickly before we get to this last person. What do you think this community needs to do to halt that and go in the right direction?
I think we need to change the fucking council. We need to change the council, and people need to we need to show up, you guys. Like if you're in this neighborhood, we need to show up. Like for real, we got to be bodies.
Okay. I'm gonna turn over to the final person to speak here. Thank you. Do you believe people of color are welcome in this neighborhood? And regardless of what your answer is, what do you want communities like this or Minneapolis? What should the conversation be going forward?
Thank you.
So I grew up primarily in East St. Paul, and moved around a lot. Primarily to neighborhoods exactly like this. And, you know, I grew up with a foster mom who fought in the civil rights, so she was always like, no, be you, don't stop being you, whatever you do. So the amount of times where I would go outside and think, you know, it's perfectly okay for me to sit there and do my yard work or take out the dog or something without a shirt on because it's hot. I've gotten the cops called on me. I've gotten them called on me just for sitting outside my house, drinking and hanging out with my friends. And I've gotten searched and beat up just because I've walked down the street with my hood up, not wanting to deal with anybody. And it all just comes down to the fact of, instead of sitting there and taking the time to understand what's going on with that person, whether it be a mental health thing that they have, which I myself do, or a social anxiety thing, what have you, instead of just automatically assuming they're there to do something wrong or that kind of a thing, maybe talk to them. The amount of times I've had someone just talk, even just a little bit to figure out what was going on, I can count on this hand. The amount of times I've gotten stopped by a cop in neighborhoods like this and in Rosemont and Apple Valley. I got pushed out of Rosemont by the cops. And I've lost count. And it's just ridiculous. Growing up for 25 years and just seeing all that happen, no matter where I go, it makes me feel like, okay, no matter where I decide to finally set up shop and have a family or something, that's not going to work.
Has that entirely broke the trust between you? That entirely broke the trust for the cops, for you?
Everybody. Cops, the people that lived in the neighborhood. I've had so many cops come to my house and After 5 of them, I was like, get the fuck off my property. I know what I did. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to my lawyer.
So then who do you trust?
I trust my family members, people that I share lineage with, just because they know my struggle. Back when the George Floyd stuff happened, I was riding around with somebody and we were helping a bunch of medics and running out supplies, and we were worried that we weren't going to get back to our post in time enough for curfew. And as a minority, if I'm not back in safe place by curfew, I'm getting shot or pepper sprayed or something. No matter what, I'm screwed. And there was this, I forget what, it was a rec center or something, but we brought them supplies, so medical supplies, barriers, that kind of a thing. And the gentleman that was running it was, and little to my knowledge, was Cherokee, which I share. And he was just like, yeah, no, if you can't get to where you need to be, book it here. We'll give you food, we'll give you water, we'll give you a place to sleep. That's the kind of stuff we need. We need more communities and more people sticking together. Not just for your own blood, for your own race, but for everybody. And that hasn't happened in so long.
So from the march and from what you've heard in this forum thus far, do you feel like this community is welcoming to people of color?
From what I saw, no.
Okay.
But it does have growth. There is...
Well, what can this community do to decenter whiteness and make it open to everybody?
I mean, honestly, just start talking more. Don't, like, instead of strictly assuming that someone's trying to do something, educate yourself on who that person is.
Yeah.
Educate yourself on what they stand for, that kind of a thing. I've had so many people who, from the ones that have stopped and like, hey, what's going on? I've managed to get them from one side of things all the way to my side with just a simple conversation and simple friendliness. Like,
what if they don't go to your side? Is still having a conversation productive?
Having the conversation gives them that knowledge of, maybe I can think on this.
Okay.
You know, I always have that hope that even with that simple conversation or that simple, here, have a cigarette, let's talk, that it'll grow.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up with a super fund the police mother, like birth mother, and I went to a foster home, and within that amount of time I was there, I completely just saw what actually was going on and not just being sheltered by my mom's white privilege. Yeah. Because let's be honest, when I was a kid, that protected the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
But, you know, as me and my older brother grew up, it didn't work as much because we weren't little.
Yeah.
We weren't children. We were teens and adults that they could just do whatever they wanted to and nothing would happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe that even if they don't switch right away, there's still that hope and that chance that, you know, yeah, it may just work. I've had people who, when I was out there during the George Floyd stuff, were like, no, you're bad, you shouldn't be out there doing it.
Yeah.
You're gonna go to jail. And then when I just stopped them from talking, or like had them pause so I could explain, this is what's going on, this is what they're trying to do, they couldn't pick sides. I was with a bunch of medics, so they have to help everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I said I was with Nate, immediately when I made the video, a lot of white males came in and said, so you're condoning anarchy. You want the city to burn. I was
exactly.
Like, no, I was there. I was there, like talking to the people and trying to get it to calm down.
Right.
And then when shots started busting, I got out.
Yeah,
and so
when shots started busting, we were still there trying to help the people who were getting shot.
Exactly. And there's tons of people that are there for that.
Exactly.
I know that in my skill set that I'm not going to be able to do that, and that I do know some people that can come and do that. And you know, I could probably muster the courage next time to do that. But it's interesting that you get written off as an anarchist if you are just there.
Exactly. It's just guilty by association because your group happens to be around all these out-of-towners who are just sitting there ruining everything.
Yeah, no,
and some of them aren't even out-of-towners. They could just be kids here who are just bored. But there's still that fact of there's always that no matter what, you're guilty just by association.
Yeah.
With every single aspect, no matter where you go.
Exactly.
And for people of color, you're guilty by association the day you're born.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's something that it doesn't, it can change, but it takes that simple, let's sit and talk and figure out who you are as a person to get that change to happen.
Exactly. And it sounds like what you're implicating is that this community could have more conversations about this.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. So, we're not above criticism. So, if you have any ideas of how we could do these forums differently, this is something that I've been doing for 17 years, holding intervention-based forums on sexual assault, substance abuse, racism, sexism, and transphobia. This has been my job for the past 17 years. I left that company, and now I look forward to doing it like this in the community. And if you have any criticism or ratings or whatever have you, you can go to On-Site Public Media on Facebook, message us, and we'll take it and run with it. We also are, we're open to the community. What we're doing is we're turning our cameras over to you. So if there's any kind of conversation that you want filmed amongst your community, one to start with might be, you know, possibly with Alicia Gibson, the president of LENA, and a few other people around the community, how they feel about the crack department, and having a filmed conversation on where the community wants to go next with that. Maybe people of color in this community having a filmed conversation and where they want to go next with that. Because when these conversations are filmed and put out to the public, you can't deny it. And the sad thing is that what I'm kind of discovering is that as people of color, it feels like the only weapon we have in this fight is our cameras. Because sadly, white people haven't shown up until they've seen it on film. Mm-hmm. Terrence Franklin happened in 2013. All of this could have happened then. And it didn't. It could have happened then and it didn't. And what I'm dedicating myself to is not going backwards. We're going to continue to do this. We're going to continue to dedicate ourselves to it and be one of the first BIPOC-led media companies in the city. Woo! And that's kind of a terrifying thing to say because there are no BIPOC-led media outlets in the city. There are probably some small ones, but nothing that can contend with TPT or NPR or WCCO, and we want that. I think the city deserves that. And I know that we'll wrap up on this, a really quick quiz. A lot of people are talking about vandalizing and burning things and taking to the streets. Can anybody name the last time there was a majority white riot in Minnesota that shut shit down and burned some buildings? Do you know when it was?
Super
Do you know what it was?
Bowl. Football.
Shout it out.
NCAA championship 2001, Gophers hockey.
Nailed it.
What?
When the University of Minnesota hockey team won the national championship,
hockey,
they burned it down.
Some sport.
Dumpsters tipped over, fires everywhere, people running, drinking in the streets, throwing cans at cops. They pepper sprayed white folks too. I know that for a fact because my white friends were in the street and they were like, "These cops can't do nothing to me." And I was like, "Yes, they can, and they will." I ran into a frat house. That white friend got maced directly in the like in the pubic. So like they thought they were above the law. They were not. However, you didn't have any curfew the next day. You didn't have the National Guard being called in on white students the next day. You didn't have the mayor, R.T. Ryback, who didn't stand against any police union leader or shout any defunding of the police, who's now trying to do it now. R.T. Ryback didn't call for any type of curfew or National Guard. They did not do that. They let those white kids go free to burn whatever they wanted in Dinkytown. And they did not bat an eyelash. But the second that black folks, poor folks, brown folks, indigenous folks, unhoused folks start doing something, they call it in. They call the National Guard in. And when a lot of white men showed up heavily armed to detest shelter in place, National Guard wasn't there either. You have to start questioning these narratives in your city. This is really backwards. When white people do the exact same thing as black folks in unrest and get the pass like Kyle Rittenhouse, that's bad. That's real bad. And that's gotta go right up to leadership. I only know one other place that you can fail upwards, and that's in film as a producer. This leadership has failed upwards for too long. Alondra Cano said that Jacob Fry was the new leader of Black Lives Matter when he was running against Nikema. That makes no sense. Lisa Bender wanted a porta potty moved a block away from a homeless encampment. That makes no sense. I have not seen one city council member at any of these marches at all. They are more than welcome to come and speak. We are more than welcome to speak with them and have a filmed interview. But the one thing that has not happened, if you know what happened last week in Lisa Bender's meeting, she let 100 people in, kept 200 out, muted all the people that opposed her, took maybe 5 questions, didn't answer anything directly. That doesn't sound like leadership to me. I know it's a tough job, but we need somebody in there that's gonna do the job. Do the job. All right, do we have any people of color that know the Assata Shakur chant? Otherwise I'm gonna do it, so we can wrap up, play some music. Y'all can sit and talk for a little bit. I believe there's some food maybe still here. It might have gotten all eaten up, I'm not sure. Does anybody know the Assata Shakur chant? Come on up here. Person of color, though. Yeah, come on. All right, tell us what to do.
All right, everybody, repeat after me, fist in the air. Stand up. Stand up for black people. Stand up for Kenosha. Stand up for Jacob Blake. Stand up for George Floyd. We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains. All right, as loud as you can, make this neighborhood hear it. We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to fight for our freedom.
We have a duty to win.
We have a duty to win.
We must love and support one another.
We must love and support one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
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 All power to the people, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you to the marshals, the medics that showed up, to Wes, Peter, all the folks that showed up, WCCO and the rest of the press that showed up. You're more than welcome to have a filmed interview with us. Just reach out to On-Site Public Media. And thank you to the bikers that showed up as well. We're going to play a little bit of music. You got 20 minutes and then we'll vacate. Thank you.
Is that what you want to do right now?
Black.
I'm ready to do electric slide for the... Yeah, it was lit. That was actually lit. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.